Hello everybody and welcome to the 15th video in our series of videos on political developments in Ireland in the 20th century. We have finally left behind the War of Independence and the Civil War, and today we will look at how Ireland got on now that it had power to rule itself. Specifically, we will be looking at the Cumann government, and in this video we will be focusing on the successes of the Cumann government, which ruled from 1923 to 1932. As always, we begin with our learning outcomes. So by the end of this presentation, you guys should know three things that Cumann did to restore law and order. You guys should also know three things that it did to help the Irish economy. And finally, you guys should know 8 things that it did to help further Irish independence. We talked about the split in the Sinn Féin party during the Civil War into pro-treaty sides and anti-treaty sides. W.T. Cosgrave became the leader of the pro-treaty party after the death of Michael Collins and Arthur Griffith, and the party was renamed the Cumann Party. Cosgrave and his party were charged with leading the new Irish Free State. The first thing they had to do was to re-establish law and order in the country. They started ruling when the Civil War was still taking place, with the irregulars still carrying out guerrilla tactics. As we saw last time, the irregulars finally surrendered in May of 1923, but there had been lawlessness in the land for years, and many people still had guns. So Cumann took 3 main measures to deal with the lawlessness that persisted in the countryside. The first thing they did was to set up the Garda Síochána, or the Guardians of the Peace. This was an unarmed police force. Cumann they wanted to change the perception of the police after the violent battles between the rebels and the RIC, which had taken place over the previous 5 years. To this very day, the majority of the Garda in Ireland remain unarmed. The next step, or the second step that they took to re-establishing law and order, was that they reorganised the court system. If you remember that during the War of Independence, Sinn Féin had their own court system to assert their independence. Now that freedom, or at least a stepping stone to freedom, had been won, it was time to get the country running more smoothly and to get the court system back in order. The final step that was taken to restore law and order was to bring in the Public Safety Act. We saw this last week. It was brought in 1922 to deal with the irregulars and the rebels of the Civil War. And this allowed the government and the police to arrest people who were suspected of aiding rebels, and also led to the execution of rebels. As you can see here from this photo, the rebel leader, one of the rebel leaders, Erskine Childers, was shot under this bill. So while this bill, it did help break the anti-treaty resistance, it also helped cause a further bitterness that would play out in the Dáil when the anti-treaty leaders returned to politics. For the Free State to work, it would also have to ensure that the economy was put on a sound basis. So this was the second positive thing they did. Nothing really leads to political instability quite like economic instability. So Cumann they put an emphasis on agriculture as opposed to manufacturing. They set up quality standards for eggs and meat and butter, and they improved animal breeding methods so that Irish products would be in greater demand. During World War I, Irish products had got a bad reputation as being of poor quality and quite cheap, so the Cumann government was trying to change this perception. They also provided loans for farmers. They set up the Agricultural Credit Corporation, which provided loans for farmers. They helped farmers buy back land also, and they also introduced low taxes for farmers as an incentive for them to invest in the farms and to improve the standards. So by 1930, this policy it was working for the agricultural sector because exports to Britain were at the highest they had been for a long time. However, the failure to support the manufacturing industry by protecting Irish products, like by putting tariffs on imports, it led to the economy not growing, and when the Wall Street crash hit in 1929, unemployment increased massively. However, one huge achievement of Cumann government was the establishment of the Chanin Scheme. This was a huge hydroelectric dam that was built in Ardnacrusha um, on the Shannon River. It began in 1926 and it was finished in 1929. It cost £5 million to build, um, but it provided electricity for industry, farming, and homes. So while it didn't support industry and manufacturing, the building of the Ardnacrusha hydroelectric plant really did help um, uh, industry in another way. The ESB was set up to build a national grid to distribute the electricity that was generated here and to distribute that around the country. The final big achievement of the Cumann government was its work with other Commonwealth countries in gaining more independence for Ireland. In 1926, the Balfour Declaration was passed, and this stated that all countries within the Commonwealth were equal in status. This meant that Ireland couldn't be treated any different than Canada or Australia, despite how close it was to Britain. This was a major fear that Ireland wouldn't be treated as fairly as Canada or Australia due to its proximity to Britain, but now they had in the Balfour Declaration that this would not be allowed. Finally, in 1931, Cumann again worked with other Commonwealth countries in negotiating the Statute of Westminster. This allowed any Commonwealth country to change any law that had been passed by the British government for that country. So if Britain passed a law that the Irish people were unhappy with, they could change that law. This act is going to be crucial when Eamon de Valera comes back onto the political scene, into political power in 1932. He is going to use the Statute of Westminster to really dismantle the treaty. This act is crucial in Ireland eventually gaining independence, and it really showed that Collins' assertion that the treaty was a stepping stone to getting further independence was actually a true prophecy. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. So by now you guys should know three things that Cumann did to restore law and order: the setting up of the Garda Síochána, the re-establishment of the courts, and the Public Safety Act. Then you guys should know three things that they did to help the Irish economy: so the setting up of the ACC to provide loans for farmers, the improvement of standards in Irish products, the building of the Ardnacrusha power plant, and the overall improvement in the Irish agricultural industry. Finally, you should know two things that they did to help further Irish independence. Again, so they negotiated with other Commonwealth nations, and with these Commonwealth nations, they were able to get the Balfour Declaration passed and the Statute of Westminster in 1931. That's the end of the presentation. Hope you guys got something good from this video.